Hey guys, and welcome to another video. A flurry of news today, including a new trailer to watch, some World vs. World news, stuff about the new legendary spear. Epic Games are releasing Guild Wars 2. That kind of came out of nowhere, but I suppose it was to be expected since the Steam release a little bit back. And of course, the new story patch is coming out next week. We have an official date. It is, the standard thing that they do. 7 days after some kind of big announcement, it will be releasing. So next Tuesday on November the 19th, we get to get stuck in and play. So I want to open this video with a quick recap, because this next patch that's coming out is kind of an interesting one. It might be a bit of a controversial one as well. So let's see. Let's remind ourselves what this patch is meant to be. It's the first Living World style major patch in a long time that is explicitly designed to not feature open world expansion. There is no open world, world map place that we can go to. There are, of course, some new places for us to explore, but that standard kind of patch, this is not. And how rare is that for the game? Well, it turns out kind of. Back in Season 1, there were obviously many patches without new maps, and they could be pretty hit or miss. In Season 2, they added to the open world, but rather by expanding a single map. Like Drytop just kept getting bigger, and then the Silver Waste, essentially, it started quite big, but they kept expanding the events that were there, and then they did add little areas like the Script Jumping Puzzle, the Labyrinth Place, the Northern Silver Waste, the Golden Cave, stuff like that. For Season 3, ArenaNet came out with a really interesting statement in hindsight. They said that at the start of Season 3, when we got Bloodstone Fen, there was a full map in a single episode, and even though it was kind of small, it had a lot of verticality, it was pretty fun, and they said at the time not to expect that sort of thing always, it would just be when it was possible. But then, following the entire rest of the season, we ended up having full maps for every single episode, over and over and over again. So they said don't expect it, but it happened. And Season 4 kept the trend up, with the maps even more massive to support all the mount movement, and then hosting even more content. They had the bounty system in there as well. They had races, they had elaborate crafting stuff, like the Golden Pack piece in the Sandswept Isles, or the Astral Weapon stuff at the Astralarium. So it's been happening long enough now that by the end of Season 4, people just kind of took it to be the status quo expectation. There should always be a new map, and it was obviously super awesome. I would call that whole period Guild Wars 2's golden age right there. Even the Icebridge Saga basically continued this. It had a much tougher development after the layoffs, but the prologue had its own maps, and while Drizzlewood and Biora were technically map expansions like Season 2, look, these were huge map expansions, right? And essentially, it didn't matter much. They felt like they had new maps, really. Things only finally changed after years and years with the Icebridge Saga, when they decided to end the Icebridge Saga early in favor of End of Dragons. Champions was this one patch that had to spread over a really long period of time. It had no maps. Champions was highly controversial. Obviously, it did end with the Dragonstorm instance, Prime Orders versus Jormag, in the hollowed out ruins of Anvil Rock. Technically, that was a new map, but let's be real, it wasn't an open world thing. It was more like Farron in the First City, but much smaller. A single arena for a single story instance. Post End of Dragons was another weird time, as the studio figured out the modern era, this whole mini X-Pack thing. It had just the one patch, and technically, I guess it's true that Giala 2 was a map expansion. I don't know whether that really counts. It was just that one corridor in the Jade Sea, right? Secrets of the Obscure went with one map, Naos, and a double expansion, and that definitely didn't go down well. So the point is that I'm trying to make, looking back, all these patches with minimal or non-existent open world have struggled. Now, I honestly don't think it's impossible to get this right. And in fact, I really like the idea of a Guild Wars 2 patch that, instead of forcing us into a new area, leverages a lot more of the existing content spaces. Like those Lion's Arch instances in Janthir Wilds were honestly some of my favorite moments in the whole story. When Season 4 took us back to Amnoon for a bit, I loved it. When Season 3 took us back to Tarir for the Egg Chamber, okay, I wasn't too much of a fan of raising Aurene and all that, but I loved the fact we were back in Tarir. When I look back at Path of Fire, and I realized we only visited the Desolation once in the base game for a very brief spell, I kind of feel bad, Why couldn't we go back to the Desolation at some point? What about Saitang or Ekovald in End of Dragons? What about Amnitas or Skywatch in Secrets of the Obscure? A Living World patch without the burden of a new place at all could set all of its stuff in pre-existing places, including core, by the way. And I think that would actually be really cool. I like the idea of looking back at these other areas. I like the idea of more of the MMO being evergreen. That would be my hope. So I think there's a lot of potential there. So their plan for Janthir Wilds is this. we are going to get 2 full, massive, separate open world maps. But for the very first patch, that's next week, you don't get one at all, all right? So the other 2 patches were probably in safe hands, but this one could be kind of controversial. And that makes today's announcement and trailer and stuff pretty interesting to me. Will we get to see some breathing room and lots of time to visit Corteria, base expansion maps? Surely if we do, then the trailer will show it, right? Right? Well, here we go. Let's watch the trailer. I won't do any commentary over it. Let's just see it in full and see what we think. The patch is called Godspawn, by the way. Obviously, you've seen that from the title of the video. I love that name as a patch title. It's beautifully edgy in all the ways that I like. Anyway, yeah, Godspawn.
Shh, quiet!
Let me tell you a story. One the Ashmakers will weave for centuries to come. The day the Wayfinder and I crawled to the top of Mount Balrior.
Dangerous it is.
Indeed, it is a story of allies pitted against unrelenting challenge. The fight for survival. The tools we used to carve out legend. The sting of betrayal when affection has just begun to bud.
So, what happens?
Well...
So there you have it, Mount Balrior, our new place to explore. This is quite a short trailer. It's another one of those ones where the Enslay stuff feels like it's a good chunk of the runtime. I do like the way that they end that in the script there, with him just saying, what happened? Well, ... We'll have to play it to find out, I suppose. A nice little trailer, basically on par with any of the other ones that we've had. You know, I would like to see an amazing, epic trailer every single time, but probably reserving that for the actual expansion releases is a better idea. This ultimately is just, you know, a patch. We get a glimpse of breaking walls with the Warclaw, with the, you know, the chain pull, I assume. Massive scale of 50-man content, some new gorgeous mountain environments, what looks to be a huge territory capture defense zone, and a hell of a lot of combat. I actually saw someone in the YouTube comments saying, hey, this is too much combat footage, can't we have some other stuff? And I guess I somewhat agree, but I guess what's probably happening here is they're doing a lot of combat stuff, because it feels high energy and actiony for a trailer, but also they can avoid spoilers as much as possible. Apparently there was a stream, now I missed this, there was a stream recently where there might have been a bit of a leak about one of the big bosses. I won't say that here in this video, but you can probably guess where this is going. And in fact, obviously we see a lot of Titans here. And I just have to say, I was rather hoping that this new raid / Convergence, because clearly that's what all this footage is from, I was hoping that would feature some totally new bosses. This is a bit of a disappointing to me. Surely when we get into those raids, when we play those wings, or even just playing any kind of new story patch, one of the things that's exciting is finding some new enemy and enjoying the new art when it's mixed with some cool gameplay. But the trailer, like I remember when raids have kind of felt a bit like they've reused a boss before, it's been a bit disappointing. Here, the trailer is just showing Titans. If they had some fancy new badass boss, surely it would have appeared in the footage somewhere here. So hopefully you haven't spammed the storyline too many times. I've done 2 playthroughs of Janthir Wilds myself, and I've done the meta event quite a few times. Hopefully you've not spammed it too much, because it might just be much more of the same thing. But I assume there'll be a few more mechanics. But in terms of enemies that we're fighting, it feels like ArenaNet might not have been able to have made too much, because if they had made something new and amazing, it would have been in the trailer, right? I'm open to the possibility that they've just hidden something amazing off for the end, but I don't know. I guess we'll see. We do, of course, also in this trailer see the new legendary spear. Now, this is called, I might mess up the pronunciation here a little bit, Clobjarn. I'm pretty sure the J is a Y sound, not a J sound. Clobjarn. What a name, by the way. Apparently that means claw bear in Old Norse. It sounded really weird when I first heard it, but I guess a lot of the legendaries, kind of, the names feel very alien to me, and then within 5 minutes or so, it just feels natural and like a part of the game. Yeah, Clobjarn, claw bear. Someone pointed out on Reddit that Klo is also German for toilet. You could call this Toilet Bear if you liked. I found that quite funny. Anyway, the spear is, I guess, a bit Exordium-ish, maybe? In that it has a bunch of different forms. You might have caught some of them in the trailer. At first, when I saw them watching through this footage, I thought they were just like different bits of the precursor progression, you know, because you don't just get the legendary, you slowly build it out of other models. And I thought, oh, that's quite a good idea that they would just put the various stages there in the footage. Most of us only ever think about the final one, but, you know, why not advertise and think about the earlier points as far as advertising for the patch. But it doesn't seem to be that. It's literally that the final legendary has a bunch of forms. Bizarrely, I didn't see this detail anywhere in ArenaNet's own press about the patch, but they did an interview with MMORPG, and over there, they reveal there are 6 versions, apparently. 6 versions of Club Yarn. Pretty awesome. I wonder what dictates the type that you get. Like, my instinct would be to say maybe it changes based on your profession, but there's only 6 and we have more professions than that. So what is it exactly? Maybe we change it, you know, maybe it's an Aurene style situation. The rest of the article doesn't really, by the way, the MMORPG article, it doesn't really have any other details for what it's worth. I mean, feel free to go over there, give them a click, check it out. But it's written very flatly. Basically, they just reiterate the official material I'll be talking about in this YouTube video here, plus with that little detail about lots of spear variations. I just can't believe that ArenaNet themselves haven't put that front and center. If this legendary is a little bit extra special, I think finally having another legendary for me, personally, to work on will be really good. Last year, Obsidian Armor, I don't know, you would think for me as a Guild Wars 1 player it would capture me, right? But Obsidian Armor did not capture me at all. Maybe it was the prospect of doing a bunch of last year's Convergences. You know, I kind of like the grind. I don't mind grinding in MMOs, but something about Obsidian Armor, I just didn't go for it. However, a weapon, I kind of feel like I will. Strange, I never would have expected that of myself. I'm honestly still very excited about the backpack as well. Don't forget, Janthir Wilds has this legendary backpack too, but there's hide nor hair of mention of that in any of today's stuff. In fact, I think the last time I heard about the backpack was the, like, pre-release blog post early this summer. I guess it's a thing for the later maps. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts in the comments. Let me know. So all that stuff aside, what really grabs my eye in this trailer relates to the story and the environment focus. So the plan for this patch is no new open world map yet, sorry, but you do get a new raid map, which has a 50-man casual Convergence edition too. In principle, I'm really thrilled by that. I love the raid stories. The experience of traveling through those environments is super ambient. They provide great narratives. I know a lot of people get put off with the raiding, but you really shouldn't be. Hell, the Bastion of the Penitent patch alone was, for me, one of the best story patches they ever did. I even loved the Icebrood Saga, right, where they gave us that 10-man strike mission escorting the tank. As far as actual storytelling was concerned, it was really good. It wasn't too replayable, but first time through, oh my god, it's some of the best storytelling they've done. The instance where we roleplay as Ryland in the Ice Cave going to murder Almora. Stuff like that is good, right? So I do have high hopes for this patch. I think it's a smart idea for modern ArenaNet to say, look, you get this kind of content when they can't do open world. You know, you get one or the other. Brilliant. With that said, that's all this trailer appears to be. I was really hoping that this release was going to be a full-length story patch, like featuring, you know, 2 to 4 instances, maybe more, with a bunch of walkie-talkie stuff in between, where we will meet with characters like Isgaran and Destiny's Edge and Dragon Watch, or any new faces. We do stuff, you know, and it's just that this raid Convergence thing is also there. Should the loss of an open-world map mean that we lose an entire regular story patch as well? What's stopping us from revisiting prior locations in a meaningful way, just like I said, you know, earlier in this video? So that's what I was hoping for. A story patch plus a Convergence/raid. But this trailer, it's only showing Convergence stuff. We don't even see the 10-man edition of it, right, in the trailer. It's just showing Mount Balrior, nothing else. There is a shot of Kaith sitting on the fireplace, sure, but I'm pretty sure that's reused from the end of the base X-Pack, right? Like, that's the last scene near the end of Janthir Wilds. Where are the other characters? What other events will we get? It's just the mountain here. So perhaps this is to keep things close to their chests and avoid spoilery material, like I said with the boss thing a second ago, but I don't know, man. I don't have too much hope. I think that this patch is basically just a Convergence. I don't know if there's much regular story this go around. The official website specifies that there are 3 new story chapters. That's me quoting from them there, which seems pretty short. And of course, it doesn't tell us much. It might be that those 3 chapters, and I think this is likely, it's an intro conversation Then the next chapter is just the Convergence. It will just be do the Convergence, and then there'll be an outro conversation. I don't know, that's not enough for me. It's pretty disappointing, I think. I've long said what we need for Guild Wars to really be invested and love this game and love this story is more time with characters, more opportunities for dialogue, and basically just a meatier story. Some of the best stuff as well in Janthir Wilds is like separate side stuff that you have to go digging through lore documents for. I want as much of this integrated in the main thread as possible. Janthir Wilds made a lot of progress on this front. When you look at those Lion's Arch instances, they were absolutely fantastic, and a lot of others too. Lots to dig into. So I thought Janthir Wilds was doing well. I hope now, you know, we only get 3 patches. I hope we didn't just essentially lose one worth of story. This also comes down to the nature of the Convergence itself. You know, if the story up Mount Balrior is really integrated into the main plot, then maybe it'll work out. It seems, though, to be pretty separate for the most part. I don't know, an adventure up a mountain, I don't see many shots of, you know, characters that I want to see in there as we go. The fact that they refer to it almost in the past tense seems a bit iffy as well, but, you know, maybe that'll work out and that's fine. There are Titans there at the very least, so it does seem like it'll probably be the main narrative. Who knows, maybe Uriel will show up and a lot of cool stuff will come from that. So yeah, I kind of have my doubts. I want a meaty patch plus the Convergence there. This all comes down to that same story over and over and over again, right? I want more content, I want more things to play. And yeah, this is going to be a really interesting patch to look at. I hope it doesn't like do badly because it doesn't have an open world. And what ArenaNet don't realize is patches without open world are totally doable, but there still has to be a good story with them, with a lot to do. And I guess we'll see in 1 week. So that's the trailer. Those are my initial thoughts on that. Now, there is a little bit more information here as well. They did a big blog post over on the official website with quite a few tidbits, including like general update stuff. A pretty big focus on World versus World as well. Now, you guys will have seen they did some amazing tournament stuff with the PvP season recently, and they also did the beta for the push game mode. That does get a little bit of a mention, but okay, well, let me not jump ahead here. Let's read through and have a little bit of a look. Oh, actually, I'll tell you what, another bit of news. I'll just throw this in here in the middle. The game is coming to Epic Games. Guild Wars 2 released on Steam a couple of years back. I was really excited at the time about the Guild Wars 2 release for Steam. I thought it would bring a lot of new people in. I remember when it released on Steam, there was quite a bit of talk on Reddit about players in new zones and stuff. I don't know whether I've really felt, you know, Guild Wars 2 trailers are getting a lot more views now. Guild Wars 2 streams are getting a lot more views. I don't know whether I've seen LFG is more populated these days. I don't know whether I've seen the open world maps are more populated. I don't know really how beneficial the Steam release was ultimately. So with that in mind, when it comes to the Epic Store release, I mean, ostensibly it's good. Cool. I don't know, though. The Epic Game Store seems to be a pretty dead storefront, mostly, to me. I think about earlier in this year, there was, you know, with the Tomb Raider remaster release there, it was a crazy dev version with absolutely insane amounts of weird content in it, and it took people, like, weeks and weeks and weeks to even notice there was anything different about it. Feels to me like not many people use the Epic Game Store. Maybe I'm in a bubble with that opinion. Most people are probably like myself. They had it installed for a while so that they could get free games. At least Guild Wars 2 in that store will be listed as, you know, a free-to-play thing for most of the base stuff. So, you know, maybe we'll see a lot of players out of it, and I'm an advocate for the game, and I want to see new players, and it's a good idea for ArenaNet to do. In their official communication, they said that they were going to do a badass new trailer for the Epic Game Store, but it would release later. Well, Epic already released it. So I've shown you one trailer in this video. There is a new trailer for Core Guild Wars 2 now, the Epic Games trailer. It's not bad, actually. It mostly just features a ton of shots of big world bosses, a lot of emphasis on the race that we play, what kind of commander we are, because, you know, it's the personal story. These are elements we don't really think about too much anymore. Obviously, new playable races don't really even get added to the game, but it's fun to look at, and I think they actually did some new voice acting as well. Like, there's a moment in the trailer where the commander says, "I'm the commander," and except it's 5 different commanders speaking at once, one for each of the playable races, and it works well in the trailer. But what's interesting to me is I don't remember a moment ever in the story where our character says out loud, "I'm the commander." Maybe there's a moment, it doesn't spring to my mind though. So I think they probably got some new, you know, that's new voice acting that they got in specifically to do for it. It's okay. A bunch of people over in the Spud Discord were saying, hey, you know, it's nice to have a decent trailer for Core. It's funny, I remember, I think it was around the 10th anniversary, ArenaNet also did a good trailer for Core, and it was really good, but trailers like this, years later, tend to just get forgotten about very, very, very quickly. So I'll just throw this one on the list, on the pile. I wish the game all the best, and I like the idea of Epic Games Store giving us a bunch more views, but at the end of the day, I'm a little bit doubtful. So yeah, there's that. All right, moving over to the official website. First, as you can see here, the devs plug the new trailer, the Godspawn trailer, and then they say, "Greetings, Tyrians!" It's hard to believe that it's already been a few months since Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds launched. As we wind down 2024, we'd like to give the community an update about all things Guild Wars 2. Our 5th expansion added one of the most requested features to the game, homesteads, and it's been wonderful watching the creativity of players as they decorate their new homes. You also got to experience the beauty of the lowland shores and survive the dangers of Janthir's Century with your new allies, the lowland Coden. With the Coden's help, you were taught to wield spears and ride the Warclaw like you've never have before. But Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds has just begun, and in 1 week you'll be able to join forces to tackle our first raid in 5 years, craft the new legendary spear, and continue your story with the lowland Coden. You know, I love the way that they mention our 5th expansion here. We in the community keep calling them mini X-Packs, and I don't know about you guys, but I do think of them as very different products, and you know, it's very compartmentalized for me. I think of Guild Wars 2 as having 3 full-fledged expansions, and then these are kind of a different breed. Here, they're saying this is the 5th expansion. It's just like POF in a sense. It's just like Heart of Thorns in a sense. You know, your mileage may vary with that. And of course, yeah, I do think that this patch is coming out quite quickly, by the way. I don't know how you guys feel, but for me, Janthir Wilds came out. I did like a month of streaming and Let's Playing it, swapped over to FF, and I'm only just finishing one part of FF, and boom, Janthir Wilds is coming out again. You know, it used to feel to me like these 3-month gaps between patches felt like an eternity, but this one has blown past for me, and I still feel very much into the game and very much like I was only just playing it. I think that's a really good thing as well, you know, that the meteor patches for post patches for Janthir Wilds are happening later, and if there's going to be a thin one, if there's going to be a smaller one, i.e. the one next week, it's the one trailing just after launch, you know, because people have still got the expansion high to a certain degree. They've still, you know, got a lot of content. Like, I haven't finished all of the Renown Heart stuff. I don't know, you guys in the comments want to tell me, have you done all the Renown Heart, like, repeatables every single time? You know, people are still a little bit connected to the game, so they'll maybe accept a slightly thinner patch around this time. So scrolling down, we get a screenshot of Mount Balrior there. They say, Godspawn, the first of 3 major updates to Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, is coming on November 19th. 3 new story chapters will continue your adventure against the threat of the Titans. Will you and your allies be able to uncover a path to securing peace for the inhabitants of the Isles of Janthir? By the way, one thing I haven't really talked about here, it seems like there's some big conflict with the Titans again. What feels weird about this release is I don't even feel like we're going to kill them here properly. It feels like we're going to get the same bosses over and over in the open world, in the story, in the raid, in the Convergence, and I don't even feel like they'll be dealt with in this patch. I feel like they're going to continue to be a threat in the new year, and then, you know, with the final release just before Mini X Pack 3. So what will actually be the consequence of this? The big cliffhanger at the end of JW, the reveal of Ura. Is it possible that she'll be dealt with on Mount Balrior straight away? I don't know. I don't think so. In addition to new, especially since they've announced that the Titans can be defeated and then just basically leave and regroup. In addition to new story chapters, there will also be a new raid and Convergence, the legendary spear, Club Yarn, as well as a new Wizards Vault season, relics, weapons, armor rewards, mastery update, and new homestead decorations. Now, yeah, the relics are kind of one of the big ticket things. There's 6 new relics coming here. So far, I've been pretty disappointed with the relic system. The devs don't announce what the new 6 are in this update. So here's the hoping that they're good. I'd really like to see them take a bit of a hammer to relics. And I know what I'm about to say sounds like power creep, but if they readjusted the balance of them and allowed us to equip, like, 3 at once, so you had like an offensive one, a defensive one, and the utility one, I feel like that'll be much more interesting, and suddenly when they add more relics, it will feel really good. Right now, it's kind of just this thing of spend 2 seconds on Google to hear which one is the best for your damage, and then that's it. I feel like it needs to be broken up a bit more for the buildcraft to really shine, and for me to be excited about new relics coming in. That's probably worthy of its own video of analysis to talk about relics. Anyway, yeah, there are new relics, Wizards Vault, and so on. I like how in this paragraph they do specify there's going to be story and a raid / convergence. That gives me hope that they are two very separate things and there is some meat to it. We'll see next week. Stay tuned for previews of the new rewards and the Wizards Vault refresh on our launch day blog. We get another screenshot of the Convergence there, of a big old Titan being attacked. They say raids are back! Exclamation mark. Of course, in 5 years. In next week's update, we will be in... I think they shouldn't have said 5 years, by the way. They should have said half a decade. That really drives home how long it's been. In next week's update, we will be introducing our new 10-person raid, which will take you to Mount Balrior. It features 3 bosses, several smaller, varied encounters that will test your coordination and adaptability. That's an easy sentence to gloss over, by the way, but, you know, in raids, quite often... The smaller, varied encounters between the bosses are the boring bits and the frustrating bits. You know, when you're doing it on replay, you know, do we really need those? Just a corridor to a boss, a corridor to a boss, a corridor to a boss also would have been fine for me. At the heart of Mount Balrior's narrative are Greer the Blightbringer and Decima the Storm Singer, the 2 titans we already battled in Janthir Century. After their defeat, they're retreated to Mount Balrior to recover and regroup. This time, though, they won't be alone. Because, of course, there's that question of that third boss. I'm guessing is Ura. Their raid versions bring back the chaotic, relentless attacks of Greer and the structured, strategic mechanics of Decima, but cranked up to new levels of intensity. This is another huge point of curiosity for me. How much of the... I hope that this doesn't feel at all like the meta event. And I hope it doesn't feel at all like the story boss versions that we already did of this. Because if they're reusing a bunch of that stuff already, I don't know, that's not good news to me. Though there is something to be said for experiencing the same thing, but with much better tuning. Feels like it gives it new life, you know. Their raid versions bring... sorry, we already read that. Expect familiar moves executed in ways that will keep your group on their toes, along with a few completely new surprises that Greer and Decima have in store. So the question is those new surprises, right? They say embark on the new Convergence in the Lowland Shore. For a different flavour of group content, we're also launching a new Convergence. Like the Convergence in Secrets of the Obscure, up to 50 players can participate in public squads every 3 hours. By the way, I assume they'll set this up such that the Convergences don't overlap and you have to pick one or the other. With any luck, they've set this up that they're back-to-back. See, right now with the Janthir Wilds, with the Secrets of the Obscure Convergence, I quite often miss it, but because it feels like it's too little to remember every 3 hours. But if it's like you can do 2, it's a bit like going straight from the Chuck Garant over to Tarir. I like the idea of being able to do 1 and then flow straight into the next immediately. And hey, next year's mini X pack, we could get a 3rd to finish it off. With private squads able to start anytime, expect a challenge comparable to the Secrets of the Obscure Convergence, with most groups completing it in 20 to 30 minutes. In this journey, Stoic Alder, the Claw of the Lowland Coden, narrates your adventure to young Coden cubs, adding unique story twists with every playthrough. I saw a really cool idea on Reddit. Someone had a comment and they said, oh, we're going to get a narrator. It'd be interesting if when we wipe, he basically says as the narrator, oh, no, that isn't how it happened. And then we restart. I think that's a really fun idea. Of course, Fractals kind of have a narrator in their way with Dessa. And I've always quite liked her presence as we play through. So we'll see how they do this. It is kind of very FF as well, you know, where you've got the minstrel, like we're retelling the story. And remember, the idea of Convergence is not just that it's 50-man, but it tweaks. Different bosses might appear. And they're pretty clear they'll be rolling that in with Mount Balrior as well. Unique story twists every playthrough. Fans of Greer and Decima will find familiar attacks, but adaptations that make this event a fresh experience. As our first multi-purpose map, Mount Balrior includes hidden passages, adaptive designs, setting the stage for future rotations of bosses, and a challenge mode arriving later next year. Kind of reminds me a little bit of their ideas for launch dungeons. You know, the idea was different events might pop at different times, like with the Cave Troll, but they kind of didn't do very much with it. Well, here they are going a bit further. And this raises another interesting question to me. If the raid is the Convergence is the raid, well, I assume the raid bosses will be static every time. It's going to be the same thing. But, so does that mean there's going to be a bunch of Convergence content we just don't get to experience in the raid? They say, stay tuned as we dive deeper into what's next for both raids and Convergences in an upcoming blog. So I'd really like to cover that one. It sounds like it's going to be quite illuminating on a lot of tricky little details here on what exactly they're going to do. So, moving on. I mentioned Wild vs. Wild. Suddenly we have a Wild vs. Wild screenshot here. Of course, someone on a Warclaw, expansion themed. But of course, we've got the whole thing with alliances, so let's run through this. They say our team is focused on refining core systems in World vs. World while we continue planning some of our larger long-term goals. Okay, let me just jump in here, guys. Listen, they're going to say a lot of stuff here with absolutely zero detail. This is basically another huge section that says tune in for another blog post later. They say one major area of focus is incentivizing winning. And I think this is a good idea for World vs. World. They say, or in other words, creating shared goals that encourage teamwork. We've consistently heard two key pieces of feedback. Players often have different preferences for defending versus not defending, and more generally, many players feel there aren't enough incentives to win matchups. And this has been a big story with World vs. World, even going back to when they ran World vs. World tournaments way back in the days. Why care? Why try to win? By aligning team goals around winning, we hope to address both these issues, the defending issue as well. It's a big task, they say, but it's one we're dedicated to, and we're excited to start rolling out improvements. I like that they have a lot of gusto and enthusiasm for propping World vs. World up. They don't seem to like adding content or changing the maps or, you know, doing like big things like that, but I've always felt they need to have more confidence for large shakeups with World vs. World. Feels like whenever they do anything, people really freak out, and that made them very nervy for years. But no, you know, if Guild Wars is meant to be this big long-term project that they won't be moving away from and all this, then yeah, get in there, change things up. Now that the whole alliance thing is basically done, they're free to attack other areas of the design for the first time in years and years and years. They're saying we're also making some significant scoring adjustments for the first time in a while. This is an essential step in aligning player goals and encouraging teams to prioritize winning together. We've updated the points per kill values, the points for capturing objectives, and will soon launch adjusted victory point numbers tailored to different time zone coverage. So they say all of this, but we get no details. In the short term, we've been updating several key parts of World vs. World game elements. We've overhauled the siege system, improved the participation system to make earning repel credit more consistent. That's always been a problem. As a small-time roamer, I've always felt that. And introduced new attribute combinations to World vs. World, alongside tweaks to existing ones that don't impact PvE. Yeah, so I was told on Discord there was a big World vs. World stream. I missed it. But they mentioned in that stream they were thinking about bringing Demolisher over, maybe even to PvE, which I really love the idea of. Actually, in my Janthir Wilds playthrough just a few months ago, I was talking about how on my Ranger with a spear, I really wanted Demolisher, but it's not there. It's only in PvP. So I love this idea. We're also working to adjust certain tactics and strengthen objective lords to better serve as rally points for defenders. To make World vs. World more rewarding, we've added unique skins, infusions, new ways to spend World vs. World currencies, better skirmish track rewards. Like, oh my god, guys, look at all this stuff! Oh, I really want to see exactly what they're doing here, because this is quite the overhaul. Accessibility for new players is a key goal too. The Warclaw is now immediately available in World vs. World. Mastering it is faster, and of course this is important because you can't really keep up with groups if they're all sprinting away on Warclaws. New exotic gear with selectable attributes is readily attainable. This all sounds wonderful. I hope though it doesn't just mean more insane bloat for all those World vs. World vendors dotted all over the place. Talking about being impenetrable for new players, that's definitely something that needs to be addressed. So yeah, big stuff. They go on, they say World vs. World restructuring and competitive updates. The World restructuring team is currently focused on larger improvements to the team creation algorithm, with special consideration given to improving an issue described on the forum post. And so I won't read the whole forum post for you guys, but it's basically that people were getting put in the wrong maps or getting locked out of World vs. World, and they fixed that up. They say we're also enhancing the guild panel with a new UI element that displays which guild you picked as your World vs. World guild, making it easier for guilds to coordinate their World vs. World activities, avoid missing team creation lockout deadlines. Additionally, we're updating character select. Now, this bit's quite cool. Obviously, when you make a new account in Guild Wars 2, and this is good to align with the Epic release, I think. When you make a new account, it tells you pick a server. What does that really mean these days? You know, it doesn't really matter. You know, not in a lot of ways for most of the game outside of World vs. World, even since Mega Servers came in. So they're finally looking at this, and they're saying world selection is gone. Instead, there's going to be just a region selection, i.e. EU or NA. That's what you're going to pick. They say this will allow seamless transfers between NA and EU. And they say, and I was very excited by that. I thought, oh my god, does that mean free? Does that mean finally my community doesn't have to be split between one and the other? Oh my god. But hold on. They say with this change, intra-region transfers are no longer necessary. You just have a region now. Which also eliminates the risk of spending gems on redundant world transfers, you know, that don't matter. They say regional transfers will now just have a flat cost of 500 gems, simplifying the process. So unfortunately, it still costs gems to swap from EU to NA. And that sucks. That means that the communities aren't unified, really, as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, a lot of the weird jank that hasn't been relevant for years, they've streamlined that away. So, you know, it is a positive move, regardless. They say also for players who took part in the PvP push beta, we recently sent out a survey to gather feedback on the event, and we'll be reviewing the responses and then determining our next steps for the game mode. There will be more push news in 2025 as we continue to work with the community on building the mode. So, I was curious about this. ArenaNet announced push, and when they announced it, they said, look, this is very work in progress, the map isn't done and everything, we just want to see if it's any good. And I guess the subtext there is, if it's not any good, we'll kill it. And I remember when that came out, I thought to myself, they're never going to kill it. There's going to be a couple of people that really like it, and they're going to feel like they're shackled to it to a certain degree. So I don't know. I heard multiple points of feedback from the beta that it was basically just grindy, team fighting constantly, much like how Courtyard had been in the past and so on, and not necessarily the greatest thing. But perhaps there is some life in it. Perhaps there are things that they can improve. Hopefully the feedback's worked out well. They say there will be more news and that they're going to build the mode. Is this tacit confirmation that it's not going away, that they'll do something with it? I guess we'll see. That's all they say about push, unfortunately, and we'll have to wait for the new year. Nearly at the end now, guys. They cap off by giving us this little bit on the Epic Games Store I kind of already talked about. Guild Wars 2 is making its debut on the Epic Games Store later this month, and we're thrilled to welcome a new batch of players to Tyria. Guild Wars has been captivating players for 12 years, and we're excited to make Tyria even more accessible to players by partnering with Epic. And here they say keep a lookout on platforms for a release date and a new trailer soon. Well, the trailer's already out. I don't know if the release date is out, actually. I didn't see that. Does anyone want to drop a comment? And here they say, wrapping up 2024. While the new year may be coming to a close, there's still plenty of things coming up. November and December include 2 events. There's a 2-week new Hero Jump Start event. There's a birthday bash for Evan Nashblade. Now, listen, guys, don't get too excited about that birthday bash. I'm sure that's just Black Friday sales. You know, some discounts. I doubt there'll be much in terms of content. And then, of course, Winter's Day, as of every year, starting on December 10th. Lunar New Year and another skill and balance update will be coming in January. We haven't had balance for a while, it feels like to me. And around then or a little after, we'll be back to talk about the next few months of Guild Wars 2. They have this image for us, basically reiterating what we just read. And they say, here are some dates. So October 29th, Extra Life in-game bonus. November 12th is the new Hero Jump Start. That will be paired with the Epic release for sure. November 25th is the birthday. December 10th is the Winter's Day event. And finally, here's a chart to just show it all off for the expansion in general, listing some of the Update 2 stuff. We saw this when they announced the expansion, as it was already. You'll notice for the Mastery section, they just say Mastery Update, Mastery Update, Mastery Update. We even now have no detail about what's coming in 1 week. That makes me think that the Mastery might not be the most incredible thing. Surely we'll get a whole new line, right? Like we did with Naos, but I guess we'll see. So then they say happy adventuring. We'll see you in game, the Guild Wars 2 team. There you have it, guys. That's the announcement for today. A little of what I think. Please feel free to let me know any of your opinions, how you're feeling about this patch coming up. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back, obviously, in a week for more of the Janthir Wilds playthrough. It's really great to have more Guild Wars 2 stuff to talk about, and of course, you know, we're going to do a full playthrough here on YouTube. Make sure that you don't miss it, just as I did Janthir Wilds. In fact, on that note, since summer, I've been rock solid making MMO content. It's been really fun, but I have had people saying that they didn't realize it's going on. Just as a reminder, you're probably not going to catch what I'm doing because the way that YouTube works is it doesn't show everything under the video section. Make sure you check the live tab here. That's where like my full Janthir Wilds playthrough is and stuff. It's not like under the normal section, unfortunately. Here, so I'll put this picture on screen here. So yeah, check that out. I will be back for whatever the big blog post announcements are on this World versus World stuff and some of these other things that they alluded to. And yeah, the big playthrough will continue in a week. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Again, I really appreciate your support. And I will see you on the next video next time. Love to hear what you think down in the comments. Take care, guys.